am Maria. I am the editor of Tiny Homes in Canada, and I plan the Tiny Home Show with the very lovely
Bianca Metz. I have a few hats. I am also a co-producer of the Tiny Home Show. I am a tiny house consultant here in Ontario, and I also own a building company called Sweet Builders.
So today we're going to talk about just the lineup of the virtual Tiny Home Show, which is something you can see online from anywhere in Canada and anywhere in the world. But basically, it's like a whole conference, right? It's 2 days. It's going to be lots of talks. You don't want to miss a single talk. And every single talk, I feel, is really connected to an issue with tiny homes. It's things that we think people need to see, right?
Yes, definitely. I think the great thing about having an in-person show is that, you get to tour homes and you get to meet people and you get to see the community in real life and you get to build those connections. And there are so many people who've come to the Ancaster Tiny Home Show and have made friendships, lifelong friendships, and it's so wonderful. So because that is just one place in the world, we wanted to expand this across Canada because everyone deserves to see what their options are and to meet the community that is everywhere. That's in Ontario, that's in British Columbia, Alberta, you name it. We have people coming from everywhere. So we're really excited to bring this to you because we really think that you'll learn so much about not only how to downsize, how to go tiny, how to even put a tiny home on your own property, somebody else's property.
So let's dig into what the first day is going to be. So the first day is like packed full of material.
Yes.
And I think you are starting out the agenda with your own talk, which is always like people are lining up outside the doors of our in-person show to see that talk. So I'm so happy to kind of bring it to everyone across the country.
So I will be kicking off the conference on Saturday, January 18th with talking about land leasing for your tiny home. So not only is this a business for me, I do help people downsize into tiny homes and I consult them on all of their options. It is also a lifestyle for me. So I live in a tiny home myself. I live in a 240 square foot tiny home in Ontario. I land lease the property that we're at. We own our own tiny home. And it was really important for me to build solutions for this affordable housing option that were realistic for the general public. And so I'll be talking about our journey. I'll be talking about where we are 6 years later with land leasing. And then I'll be talking about the nitty-gritty meat and potatoes of how to actually do this, how to search out for land, how to meet people, how to ask for that. And then also what you need to do. You think to yourself, well, there's nowhere to put my tiny home. I want a tiny home, but there's nowhere to put it. Well, I'll be giving you the bylaw to use. And this is not just for Ontario, but these bylaws exist all across the country. And so I'm going to teach you how to approach your municipality to see if the bylaw that you need exists, and then kind of how to navigate how to use that and talk to experts in your community to be able to go through the process like you can here in Ontario. So you definitely don't want to miss this. It's a lot of fun. And I'm really excited to share not only my life, but this really amazing affordable housing solution in tenant-owned tiny homes on leased land.
And I think my favorite thing about this talk is that you tell people how to talk to their municipality. You just have to learn to speak their language and understand what can you ask to get the answer that you need, and for them to understand what you're looking for and for them to be able to provide good information. So it's kind of like its own language, right?
You're right. You hit the nail on the head there. It's all about the language. And as we all know in this community, the language is so unbelievably precarious, and the minutia of what you use. And not only that, but the industry is so disjointed still that this conversation will serve to kind of patch that up a bit and teach you how to actually speak to the municipalities and use their language. So the irony is we actually don't use the term tiny home because tiny home doesn't technically have a definition under building code in most municipalities. They do now, which is something that's new, but I'm going to get into that. And it is so important to learn the language, and I'm going to teach you that so you have a great foundation for the rest of the conference to be able to understand, what type of home you're looking for. And then you're going to have some experts go into that even more, which is fun.
That's like a really good beginning. And then we launch into another one of my favorite topics, which as editor of Tiny Homes in Canada, I'm always kind of trying to pepper it around co-buying with other people. So that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot as an option, but you can co-buy property with other people that you know or maybe don't know very well. And it's all about how you write that contract and how you kind of design that relationship. Leslie Gaynor, who is an amazing expert on this topic, is going to come and tell us about it. She's really fun. She's like talks about all the things that can go wrong as well as all the things that can go right. And she's got so much experience in kind of protecting people from doing it the wrong way, while also getting the benefits of splitting up properties to co-own in smaller chunks that are much more affordable.
Absolutely. I was blown away with Leslie's performance or presentation it really was a performance.
It was a performance, right?
The Ancaster Tiny Home Show, Leslie is local to the Greater Toronto area here in Ontario, but she'll be able to explain how to do things anywhere in your area because finance is pretty standard across the board, similar to real estate. So it's a really exciting topic because it's such a huge issue right now with nobody being able to afford homes that, I can't tell you, Maria, how many calls I've had in the last 2 weeks alone with people saying, I can't afford property and I want to downsize and I want to do all of these things, but they just don't have the capability to. They don't have, even if they're gainfully employed. And, what is their option? Well, it's so exciting to unearth this option that has quite honestly always existed, but now there's someone who's putting a streamlined process in place and a really palatable understanding of how to approach even other people, like-minded people. There are so many groups of people and pockets of people who initially believe, oh, I'm going to make, a tiny home community. I just want to be surrounded by the people who most align with me. There's so much opportunity. So I really hope everyone comes because number two, on the agenda is going to be such a huge piece of information for everybody.
Okay, now there's 2 pieces of huge information. I don't know how we can get through this agenda in like less time than a day. So I think the third one is minimalist, right?
Minimalist. Oh my gosh, we're so excited for them to be one of our keynote speakers. They're our very first keynote speaker of the weekend. If you don't know them, you know them. You've heard of them. You've been to their website. They're one of the very first people that I looked at when I first started our tiny home journey, who we wanted to build with, who really stood out to us, who felt really approachable, and minimalist kind of tops the charts on that. They're going to talk to you about the types of tiny homes that exist, not only in their portfolio, but just across Canada. So they're going to talk about, the different certifications, different sizes, what tiny home is really best for you. This is something that they really excel at, is talking to you about, okay, so what is your situation? Are you a single? Are you a couple? Do you have children? Do you have dependents? Is it an elderly couple? Do we need accessible design? There are so many things that Minimalist really nails well, and their tiny homes are really incredibly designed. They'll be going live from their tiny homes and giving you live tours, which is really exciting. I believe all of the builders will be doing that. So not only will you be able to get inside a minimalist model, you'll be able to hear and really understand how to choose the best tiny home for you. So I'm super excited about that talk too.
Yeah, it's all the certifications and like the code words, right, that you start to see as soon as you start researching, and then they just make it make sense. So that's going to be a really good one.
Yeah.
So next on our topics for the day one is ADUs, I think, with Sarah from Resume. And so she's going to take us through additional dwelling units, which is kind of a new thing, right? It's only been around for a few years, but it's where the tiny home movement has been moving that we've seen. It's all about adding a second dwelling to your property, your existing property. So with a tiny home, it's typically in the backyard, and you can have someone from your family living there. You can rent it out. It's like a whole separate dwelling from your existing home. And there's so many possibilities with that. Sarah, who runs Resume, is a really great expert from across Canada. It's one of those rare people who like actually sees everything in every province. And she's set up this software that actually helps you kind of try on ADUs in your property with the right sizing and the right kind of permits and everything.
Sarah is such a powerhouse in this industry, and I love what she's done with her team. A lot of her work is really supported by the government here, both federally and municipally. And so we're really excited that she's coming to the table with real legal results for detached dwelling units. And again, tiny homes are a type of detached dwelling units.
And you're going to hear the words gentle densification.
Gentle intensification. we love the word gentle.
we're just gonna leave it at that. Like you're gonna hear those words and you will be soothed. And we're just
Yes. It's going to be really, 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 it's going to be a
gonna be
gentle topic.
positive. It's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
but we're going to be gentle about it.
Yeah.
Big Calm Tiny Home Community is talking about finding community in the age of uncertainty. And I believe, Maria, you have a little bit more to that tagline. Can you drop that
In
on?
the age of uncertainty and inshittification, which
Yes.
is things becoming shittier.
It's very true. So as a
They hit the nail on,
sorry?
they hit the nail on the head with that.
They did. It's quite honestly, it's very transparent and very true. I think a lot of people relate to that. And as a fellow permaculture designer, I love the design of their community and just how they've all the principles and the ethos and everything that goes into it. It's so lovely and very intentional and generative. And there's just so many different things that you're going to want to come and learn from them, to whether it's to start your own tiny home community. But
yeah, I think for me, like the communities topic has always been kind of a sore point for me because everybody's looking for a community, but it's not that easy to build or create. And honestly, Big Calm to me is the only true tiny home community that I see all across Canada. So I'm really excited for them to tell us how they made it possible where so many have failed. And it's honestly like you see it kind of a new subdivision comes up in your town and they're like, this is going to be a community, but you know it's not, right? It's not just because you put all the houses around like a soccer field, that doesn't make it a community. And you're just going to be mowing that lawn, but the community doesn't happen like that. And I'm so curious and so interested and so respectful of people who are building a community from some other like direction and some other plans. So this is going to be a really good one to talk about. And finally, to round out the day, we have another keynote. We have Fritz Tiny Homes, the very luxurious, very stylish, very Dwell magazine favorite. And I think we're all going to feel just like a little more fashionable as we listen to them talk about luxury rentals. And if anyone knows luxury, it's them. Every single build that they put together, it's like you want to take a bite like and eat it.
Like it's a really great way to say it. Yeah, I agree.
You just want to nibble like on the shower tiles. Like, so they're going to talk about the luxury rentals, which is like a whole completely different side of the tiny home story. And I love that we have kind of both sides.
The thing that I love so much about Kevin and Heather and Troy and the team is that even though not even though their tiny homes are, the craftsmanship is second to none. They're incredible. Everything is handmade. Everything is well crafted, but it's approachable. So when you think about luxury, I think, we think about like the Maldives and we think about, stone and marble and it's not that. It's just approachable craftsmanship that fits so many different spaces, and really humble, down to earth, salt of the earth Albertans who, not this kind of, I think, hoity-toity luxury tiny home builder. They build for everyone, but they nail craftsmanship and they nail their tiny home designs, and they have just so happened to carve out this really cool and unique space.
I think that's already like a really big day, but we're going to tackle one more big topic on the first day, which is where you can put a tiny home across Canada. That's huge. That's that's the reason we're doing all of it.
Yes, so we'll have experts from most provinces, whether it's a tiny home builder, a consultant like myself, or people who are helping, facilitate the process where they are. We're really going to nail down, okay, yeah, where can I put them, but how do I do it? What are some bylaws that I use, and tackle it from a really high level. So the panel discussion will be hosted by myself, and then we will discuss, where the opportunities lie in each province based on who is there to speak. And so that's a really big one that you're going to want to come to just to learn. And then certainly ask questions. We're putting our panels at the end of the day so we can hang around and ask more questions as well, to just kind of more than one person at a time, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think rounding out that day, there's going to be a second panel, just some people who live tiny and who want to tell us like how it changed their lives. Because as we get into the really technical stuff at the end, we need to get back a little bit to the why. Like why did you want to do this? Why did you want to put yourself through this? there's something at the other end of that journey of bylaws.
I mean, it's changed our lives in ways I can't even begin to describe. So I'm excited to hear from the others as well to see, you'll be able to see what's going to be there at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so that's going to be an amazing close, I think, to the first day.
Yeah.
And then the second day, I don't know if we're ready to dive into that. We're all going to have like a nice, good sleep.
So the beginning of our second day, Sunday, January 19th, we're gonna hit you hard with some really great information on taxes, investment strategies, and financing. So Jerry is a speaker we've had come to the Ancaster show quite a few times. He works with Canadian Investment Services, and this person is going to be able to tell you from any level, whether you're an investor, whether you're in real estate, whether you are looking for investment properties, whether you are looking to downsize into a tiny home, what the investment strategies are related to the actual opportunities. So you're going to learn all about building an ADU, building your own tiny home, building and putting a tiny home on your property, building a tiny home and putting it into a resort, building a tiny home community. But Jerry's going to round it all out with, you're going to get a good understanding about what your financial obligations may be or might look like. And then Jerry's going to be a great resource for the whole weekend to be able to ask those questions.
And Jerry is so approachable, like he's so simple language, like this is not like a finance guru that you see on the internet.
Which is really important because I like
which is really important. Yeah, because he's not like here to tell you that like I made all this money by the time I was 21 and so can you. No, this is like an established professional who's seen it all. This is no judgment zone. Like if you don't have a million by the time you're 21, no one will judge you. I have a really sweet personal story about Sunshine Tiny Homes because I interviewed Pam early on in my tiny homes career, and we spent like 3 hours just chatting about life. And so I feel like that's one of my favorite builders now, just because I love Pam, and so Pam is the owner, and I just love what she's doing and how she puts that into the world through her homes. And my favorite quote from Pam is that she puts women like her on a pedestal. A lot of buyers of tiny homes are actually women with her same story. She is someone who is a single mom who raised 2 boys, started a business on her own, built it up from scratch. Like her first home that she ever built was for her mom. And now she's building for other women like that, who maybe for the first time in their life are asking themselves, like, what do I want? Where do I want to live? She is asking them, how do you want to live? This is about you now. This is your time. And I think for me, that's just like everything about tiny homes is in that question. So yep. She's going to come and talk to us about living tiny in BC. So I don't know if you've heard this, Bianca, but I've heard this a lot. Like BC is the place to be for tiny homes.
It's my first time hearing it. It's my first time hearing it, actually.
So there's so much going on in BC, and the whole movement started in BC for Canada. And Pam has been there when it started, and she's also been working with government and municipalities and kind of understanding the regulations. So she's right at the forefront of that, and I can't wait to hear like, what is it really like in BC for tiny home people, and do we all need to be there?
Pam really is the best because she is not only a tiny home builder, but she is a consultant. So you're right, she will sit down with you and really get to know you and what's best for you. And I remember through a conversation that we had one time, she said, sometimes that might not even be a tiny home. And so to have somebody in this position of owning a company and being in sales, and her livelihood relies on selling tiny homes, to impart that advice to someone to make them feel like they can make a safe decision for themselves, there's nobody like Pam.
And we have our 4th keynote speaker on the second day. That's another one that I'm really excited for. I kind of planted the seed for the topic of this talk, and I'm so glad that Jen from Teacup is going to do it because there's honestly no one better. She's going to talk about red flags and green lights when choosing a tiny home builder. And would you agree that tiny home, like picking the builder is the most important decision?
It is the hardest decision, and it's where you will either have the best experience or the worst experience, whether that's through the client experience or, quite honestly, through fraud. Let's be honest, there are a lot of people out there taking a lot of money from people, and Jen is going to tell you what questions to ask, what answers that you should be getting, and anyone who skirts around those answers is not the right builder for you. Anyone who tells you, oh, well, you're going to have to figure out all of the things on your own once you buy the house. Big red flag. If your builder says you have to give us a bunch of money up front in order for us to do this, and then you're not going to see any product for a while, bit of a red flag. If your builder...
What about the classic, you can put these anywhere?
Yes, big red flag. So many red flags.
You can't.
You cannot. Anyway, Jen is going to really nail it better than we can, but this is a really important topic and to come to, because when it comes to doing your due diligence to buying your tiny home, this is your resource. Come to this talk. Yes. So we are also going to hit you with more amazing yet dense yet very needed information. So Justin Massacre.
Dense but approachable, I think, is going to be.
Pardon?
It's going to be your motto, dense but approachable.
Dense but approachable. Yes. If you have any questions, you have to come to this conference and you will get them answered. So if you are wasting all your time on Google, come to the conference. In a nutshell. But this next speaker is another really exciting speaker, Justin Massacre from MW Drafting and Design. He is an architectural technologist, a BCIN designer, which is a building code designer here in Ontario, but also used to be a building inspector. So this person very specifically knows from A to B to Z how to put a tiny home on your property. You need to look at site assessments, you need to look at feasibility, you need to look at how to hook up water, hydro, and sewage if those are your services. So Justin is going to tell you how to actually do that. So if you're looking to land lease, you know what you're walking into. You're really going to get that due diligence checklist. If you're putting an ADU or tiny home on your own property, this is kind of the checklist you need to use. And it is actually the exact same checklist if you're land leasing. The property that your home is going to is also going to have some work to do if you'll be permitting this home.
I think the last panel that we have ties in perfectly with this because it's all about the services and which ones of them you can take off grid and in what situations. So you can't be like fully off grid in place. There's partial off-grid situations that you can do and just how to kind of figure all of that out.
Yeah, 100%. This is a really exciting topic. I personally live in a partially off-grid tiny home. So I have water coming to our house, but then I have a gray water system. I have a composting toilet, so I have to have a gray water system. I don't have any black water, so that's an implication, which is nice. But then it's also important to note that in a lot of urban areas, you can't go off-grid. And even in some rural areas, there are regulations against it.
Yeah. And I think that brings you to the end of the second day. So for like 3 minutes, let's talk about what happens outside the talks, because believe it or not, there's more.
Believe it or not, there's more.
There's more.
So it's really cool. It's going to have, when you plop in online and you sign in, you're going to see a floor plan, and that floor plan is actually going to have exhibitors on it. So quite literally, you're going to see a table with 8 chairs around it.
And you can actually see people sitting at some of the chairs. You can take your own seat. And once you join a table, it's going to pop up a conversation where you can have your camera on, mic on, talk to the builder. The builder can show you around their home that they're in. They can answer questions. You can hear kind of what other people are asking.
At the core value of this, it is a community. And that's really important for Maria and I to keep at the core and the ethos of this virtual show and all of our in-person shows. And you're going to meet and be able to just talk to other people who are in your similar position, or just get to know other people. And hey, maybe you'll find a bunch of friends to co-buy land with. You never know. And grab your seat on our website, www.tinyhome.show, and our Instagram @tinyhome.show. Join us January 18th and 19th, 2025.
See you there.
See you there.